joining us today on behalf of my family and myself. Today my dad would be turning 59 years old. We would probably be picking out a place to eat, and he would most likely end up going with a nice steak, some kingfish, or a nice lobster, because that's what he loved. He'd be telling me stories about Grenada and how much he loved growing up here. His perfect present for his birthday today would probably be swimming in the ocean here. So I did that for him this morning. Uncle Michael wanted me to relate a story of his childhood that seems like the perfect example of the type of man my dad was. One day in primary school, there was a game played in Mark's class of 35 students. Each student was asked to write a name down on paper and to put the name in the hat. The name was to be the name of a student in the same class who they wanted to be their best friend. Out of the 35 students, 34 of them wrote Mark Julian on a piece of paper. The 35th, Mark himself, wrote the name of another student who he wanted to be his best friend. This is not just uncanny, but showed how much Mark was to be appreciated by those who came into contact with him. And I can't think of any other person who would have received such resounding acclaim for his or her peer group. And those words come from Uncle Michael. When my dad passed this year, I started researching his computer. I found it very odd that he had written his own biography only 20 days before he died. So I'm sure he wanted that to be read here today. So here it goes in his own words. Mark Julian, born in Surrey, England, November 18th, 1955, is the son of Grenadian parents, the late Jean Julian and Wilfred Julian. Mark grew up in Grenada and began his journalistic career shortly after graduating from Grenada Boys Secondary School in 1974. He entered the noble arena as a proofreader and trainee reporter of the now defunct independent Torchlight newspaper, going on to cover the courts, trade, and politics. He also anchored Grenada's television evening news and volunteered during a brief stint as a new presenter for Radio Grenada's midday newscast, shortly after the March 13th, 1979 revolution. He later served as a correspondent for United Press International, taking over on the recommendation of famed Grenadian journalists, the late Alistair Hughes, and produced radio commercials for a plethora of businesses in Grenada's capital, St. George. Less than a year before the U.S.-led invasion of Grenada in 1983, Mark departed the island and lived for 2 years in Caracas, Venezuela, where he taught English and contributed to the monthly and folk magazine, which covered Latin America and Caribbean affairs. Having migrated to the U.S. in August of 1984, Mark, after residing in Houston, Texas for 2 years, moved to South Florida and joined the now defunct Caribbean Echo newspaper, published by fellow Grenadian Esley Carberry. He spent several years with Echo serving as a proofreader, reporter, and assistant editor, during which time he also presented news and sport reports on several radio stations in Fort Lauderdale and Miami. He was also co-editor of the Caribbean Times newspaper in Fort Lauderdale. Mark has served literally as a one-man news department for several programs on WABS 1170 AM over a period of spanning more than 20 years, researching, compiling, editing, and presenting news and sports reports on shows including Don Pollock's The Wake Up Call, hosted by Howard Spencer, Don Marie, and Lewis, earning a reputation for his distinctive voice and convincing reports. He also worked as a news presenter for Carib Updates News on several stations across the Caribbean. For just a little under 10 years, MJ, as he has come to be known, has diligently presented the Deep Morning Sports Report on the Morning Ride, hosted by the popular John T. and known as the Morning Ride Sports. Mark is the father of Aimee Julian and a longtime companion of Loretta Johnson. He is well loved by Loretta's children, LaShawn and Andrew, and grandchildren, Sean, AJ, Khalil, Jamel, and Alexander, whom he also considers his family. Unfortunately, Loretta was unable to attend the service today, but I know she is with us in mind and heart. My dad's biggest dream